In a bustling American city, a 13-year-old black teen walked into a bank, thrilled to open his first savings account. But his excitement quickly turned to shock when the bank manager and staff accused him of stealing money, judging him solely by his appearance. They called the police, handcuffed him in front of a silent crowd. What they didn't know was that his mother was the most powerful figure in that very bank. What unfolded next exposed deep-seated racial prejudice. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Jaden Carter practically jogged down Main Street, his backpack slung over one shoulder, a wide grin spreading across his face. Today wasn't just any ordinary Wednesday. Today was the day he'd open his first checking account. At 13, that felt monumental, like stepping into adulthood, unstoppable. The mid-morning sun glinted off the sleek storefronts and clean, tree-lined sidewalks of downtown Fairview, a vibrant city in the Midwest. Professionals in sharp suits hurried past, juggling coffee cups and briefcases. Older couples ambled along, pausing at cafe windows or discussing the crisp fall weather. It all seemed perfectly normal, but Jaden could sense it, the subtle shift in the air when he passed by. The way some people glanced at him, then lingered just a moment too long. He was used to it. A tall, lean black teen with a bright smile, smooth brown skin, and a fresh fade, dressed in the maroon and silver uniform of Fairview Academy. That always drew attention around here, and not the kind he wanted. A woman with a golden retriever pulled the leash tighter as Jaden walked by. A man outside a juice bar stared a bit too long, eyes narrowing slightly, as if Jaden didn't quite fit on this street. Jaden brushed it off. He'd been brushing it off his whole life, because today wasn't about them. Today was about proving he was ready, responsible enough to manage his own money. Mom could have made it easy. She could have arranged a VIP meeting in some sleek office with all the bells and whistles. After all, Dr. Vanessa Brooks Carter wasn't your average mom. As CEO of Brooks Financial Holdings, her name was splashed across business journals and billboards. But Jaden wanted no shortcuts. And Mom? She wanted him to earn every ounce of independence. You want respect, son? Show them you're capable, calm, and consistent. That's how you build real power, she always said. Jaden gripped the envelope in his hand. $900. Birthday cash from Nana, money from shoveling snow for neighbors, and rewards for his straight-A report card. He'd counted it twice that morning, tucked it into his backpack alongside his school ID, birth certificate, and savings passbook from the same bank. Everything they required, everything he needed. The glass doors of Fairview Community Bank sparkled under the sunlight as he approached. His stomach did a quick flip. Not nerves, but pure excitement. He was ready. A man in a suit leaving the bank hesitated as Jaden reached for the door. His eyes flicked to Jaden's hand, then to the envelope, lingering on the dark skin of Jaden's fingers wrapped around it. His jaw tightened slightly. Jaden caught the look, the unspoken doubt, but didn't waver. The lobby was cool and quiet, with polished hardwood floors gleaming under soft chandelier lighting. A few older customers sat on plush chairs, their heads turning slightly as Jaden entered. No one smiled. Behind the counter, a brunette teller chatted warmly with a middle-aged white couple, all three chuckling over a shared joke. Across the room, a security guard adjusted his stance near the entrance. His eyes locked onto Jaden, sharp and scrutinizing, lingering on his uniform, his backpack, the envelope in his hand. Jaden took a deep breath, slow and steady. He squared his shoulders. His sneakers squeaked softly on the floor as he headed toward the customer service desk. This was his moment, his leap into the adult world. No sidelong glances, no hushed murmurs, no suspicious stares would steal that from him. Not yet, anyway. Jaden stood patiently in line at the customer service desk, gripping the envelope a bit tighter, His heart beat steadily, not from fear, but from anticipation. He could already imagine the proud smile on Mom's face when he got home with his new debit card, a crisp checkbook, and an account in his name. That thought helped him ignore the curious looks from other customers. But it didn't help when the woman behind the desk finally looked up. Her name tag read, Sarah Thompson, mid-40s, short brown hair, a blazer slightly snug at the shoulders. Her lips pressed into a thin line the moment she saw him. Jaden smiled politely, just as Mom taught him. But Sarah didn't smile back. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing with faint suspicion as they moved from his face to the envelope, then to his uniform. Yes? Her voice was flat, not outright rude, but far from welcoming, the way adults sometimes spoke to kids they'd already decided not to trust. "Good morning, ma'am," Jaden began, keeping his tone steady and respectful. "I'd like to open my first checking account, please. I brought all my documents." He held up the envelope with one hand, reaching into his backpack with the other for a folder of neatly organized papers. Birth certificate, school ID, savings account statement. Mom had made sure he had everything, but Sarah didn't reach for the papers. She didn't even glance at them. Her eyes stayed fixed on Jaden's face, her expression unchanged, lips curling slightly at the corners, as if she'd heard this story before. "You want to open an account?" she repeated, her words slow, deliberate, like the idea was almost laughable. "Yes, ma'am," Jaden replied, his smile fading just a touch as confusion crept in. "With that?" Sarah gestured toward the envelope, her eyes now sharp, guarded. Jaden carefully opened the flap, revealing the neat stack of cash inside. "It's my savings," he explained. "Birthday money from my grandmother, snow shoveling jobs from the neighborhood, and some from my report card. My mom rewards good grades." For a moment, Sarah just stared, her eyes unmoving, lips still pursed. Then came a slight shake of her head, a disbelieving smirk tugging at her mouth. "That's a lot of cash for a kid your age, don't you think?" Jaden straightened, swallowing the irritation rising in his throat. "It's not illegal to save, is it?" he asked carefully, recalling Mom's advice. "Stay calm. Stay respectful, no matter what." Sarah's eyes flicked to the security guard by the door. He wasn't watching yet. She leaned forward slightly, her voice lower, colder. "Look, kid. Kids your age don't just walk in here with that kind of money, unless you're shoveling every driveway in Fairview." Jaden blinked, caught off guard by her tone. "Kid" didn't sound kind. It sounded sharp, dismissive. His heart sank as it hit him. This wasn't just about his age. This was something else entirely. "I do plenty of work," Jaden said, keeping his voice steady. "And my grandmother's generous." Sarah let out a quiet, humorless laugh. "Grandmothers usually send Venmo or write checks, honey, not stacks of cash." Jaden's pulse quickened, his grip tightening on the envelope. He tried again, pulling out the colorful birthday card with Nana's elegant handwriting inside, but Sarah barely glanced at it. "You probably found that in someone's mailbox," she muttered, almost to herself. The words stung Jaden like a slap. His throat tightened. The pride and excitement that had carried him through those glass doors wavered under the weight of her suspicion. "I didn't steal anything," he said quietly, his voice firm but trembling slightly. "I just want to open my account." Sarah straightened, her expression hardening further. The thin veneer of politeness vanished. "You know what?" she said, her voice icy now. "I think I'd better get my manager." Jaden opened his mouth to protest, but Sarah was already on the phone, her eyes never leaving his face. "Karen, can you come to window 4? Yeah, we've got a situation." The way she said, "situation," twisted Jaden's stomach, like he wasn't a customer with rights, but a problem, a threat. Across the lobby, a few heads turned. An older white man near the loan desk frowned, watching. A woman with a stroller shifted uneasily in her seat. No one spoke. The seconds dragged on. Jayden stood still, his chest tight, hands cold despite the warm lobby. He forced himself to breathe slowly, but his heart pounded in his ears. When the manager appeared, Jayden's hope dimmed further. Karen Mitchell strode from the back offices, mid-50s, tall, with sharp features and a navy suit pressed to perfection. Her heels clicked with authority on the hardwood floor. But the moment her eyes met Jayden's, her expression shifted, not to curiosity or professionalism, but to something colder, familiar, ugly. She approached the counter, her gaze sweeping over Jayden, his envelope, his backpack. "What's the issue?" Karen asked, her voice smooth but distant. Sarah didn't hesitate. "This young man claims he wants to open an account," she said, her lips curling on claims. "Says it's birthday money, snow shoveling, but, you know." Karen's eyes sharpened. "You know," she echoed softly, as if they shared a secret Jayden wasn't meant to understand. Jayden's cheeks flushed, his pride morphing into frustration that burned under his skin. He held out the envelope again, his voice steady but low. "I have all my documents, my ID, my birth certificate, my savings statement from this bank. I didn't do anything wrong." Karen's expression didn't soften. She didn't reach for his papers. Instead, her gaze lingered on his uniform, her eyes narrowing as if the silver emblem on his chest offended her. "Fairview Academy, huh?" she said, her tone almost amused. "Nice uniform. Let me guess. Scholarship kid?" Jayden's jaw tightened. The words weren't overtly hostile, but their meaning was clear. He didn't belong, not here, not in this neighborhood, not in this bank. "My mom pays the tuition," Jayden said, pride creeping back into his voice, though his hands trembled. "I earn my own money." Karen exchanged a quick, sharp look with Sarah, heavy with unspoken agreement. The knot in Jayden's stomach tightened. This wasn't how he'd pictured it, and a quiet voice inside whispered, "This isn't about money. It's about you, your skin, who they think you are before you even speak." For the first time that day, Jayden doubted preparation would be enough. He stood frozen by the counter, the envelope still clutched tightly. His palms grew sweaty, a flush creeping up his neck, but he kept his eyes steady, shoulders squared, just as Mom taught him. "Hold your ground. Speak with respect. Don't let them see you crack." But it was getting harder. Karen Mitchell didn't hide her judgment. Her eyes scanned his uniform, his documents, the birthday card, then landed back on his face with a cold, practiced smile that never reached her eyes. "All right," she said, her voice light but dripping with condescension. "Tell me again where this money came from." Jayden swallowed hard, keeping his voice even. "It's my birthday money from my grandmother and my savings. I brought proof. My ID, my school papers, my savings statement from this bank." Karen didn't glance at the papers. She tilted her head, that skeptical smile frozen in place. "That's a lot of money for a 13-year-old to just walk in with." "I earned it," Jayden said firmly, his hands trembling slightly, but his voice steady. "I've been saving for months, shoveling snow, good grades. My family rewards me." Sarah let out a sharp, bitter laugh behind him. "Sure," she muttered. "Funny how the story always works out that way." Jayden's stomach twisted, his pulse roaring. He glanced around the lobby. More people noticed now. An elderly woman near the loan desk pressed her lips into a disapproving line. A man with a stroller watched but said nothing. The security guard by the door was no longer distracted, his eyes on Jayden, hand near his radio. Karen folded her arms, leaning over the counter, her tone colder. "Look, son," she began, and the way she said, "son," made Jayden's jaw tighten. "Kids like you don't usually stroll in here with a wad of cash and a story about snow jobs and grandmas. Her eyes flicked to the envelope. "If I had to guess, someone gave you that money to do their dirty work, thinking no one would question a nice little student from Fairview Academy." Jaden's heart sank. His throat tightened, his fingers crumpling the edge of Nana's card. His voice cracked, but he forced the words out. "That's not true." Karen straightened, brushing imaginary lint from her suit, eyes sharp as glass. "We'll see." Before Jaden could react, she picked up the phone and dialed quickly. "Officer Bennett, can you come to customer service?" she said, her voice casual, like ordering a latte. "I've got a young man here. Suspicious activity, possibly stolen funds." Jaden's eyes widened, his chest so tight it hurt to breathe. "Wait, what? I didn't steal anything. You didn't even—" His voice broke as Karen raised a hand, silencing him. "We'll let the authorities sort it out," she said coolly. "You can explain your story to them." Sarah smirked, leaning back in her chair like this was routine. The security guard moved closer. Panic clawed at Jaden's throat, but anger surged beneath it. Hot, sharp, rising fast. He'd done everything right, brought every document, been polite, respectful, and still they saw him as a criminal, as if they'd decided the moment he walked in that he was trouble. His eyes darted to the entrance. His phone was in his backpack, zipped in the front pocket. If he could just— A low voice cut through his thoughts. "Turn around, kid." Jaden froze as two police officers approached. One was tall, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, with thinning hair and a stern jaw. His name tag read, Murphy. The other, a woman with blonde hair in a tight bun, looked younger, maybe mid-30s. Her badge read, Larson. "Officers," Karen greeted, her voice suddenly warm, professional. "Thanks for coming so quickly. We've got a situation." Murphy glanced at Jaden, his eyes scanning from head to toe, lingering on his dark skin, his uniform, the envelope. His expression barely shifted. "What's going on?" he asked, his tone already carrying an assumption. "This young man came in with a suspicious amount of cash," Karen explained smoothly. "Says it's birthday money, but no proper explanation. Documents don't match up. We believe he may be involved in theft or possibly laundering." Jaden's mouth opened, words stuck in his throat. "That's not true," he managed, his voice cracking under the pressure in his chest. "Please, just look at my papers. It's all there." Neither officer reached for his documents. Murphy's eyes lingered on the envelope, then flicked to Larson with a slight nod. Larson pulled out handcuffs. Jaden's pulse pounded, his vision blurring for a split second, his legs shaky. "No, wait, please," he stammered, stepping back. "I didn't steal anything. I have ID. My mom banks here too. Just call her." Murphy cut him off with a dismissive wave. "We hear this all the time," he muttered. "Kids like you, big stories, big attitude. Let's go." Jaden's chest burned, his eyes locked on Murphy's face. The clenched jaw, the disinterest, the same look Karen and Sarah had given him. Not curiosity, not concern, but judgment. Final, unshakable. Larson grabbed his wrist. The cold metal cuffs clicked around his skin, loud in the quiet lobby. Customers stopped what they were doing. The elderly woman near the loan desk watched, lips tight. The man with the stroller picked up his kid, turning away. No one spoke up. As they led him toward the door, Jaden's backpack bounced against his side, his phone heavy in the front pocket. His hands were cuffed, his pride shattered. But through the fog of humiliation and fear, one thought pushed through. Mom. If he could just get to his phone, send a message, she'd fix this. She had to. And none of them, Karen, Sarah, the officers, had any idea what was coming. The message was short, just 12 words typed with trembling fingers as the officers turned him toward the door. Somehow, Jaden managed it. The phone hidden under his backpack flap, wrists awkwardly cuffed. "Mom, Fairview Community Bank. They arrested me. Said I stole money." Scared. The moment he hit send, the phone was gone, snatched by Officer Murphy. "You won't need that," he muttered, pocketing it. But the message was already speeding across the city, racing toward the one person who could flip this nightmare upside down. In a sleek skyscraper downtown, 38 floors above the bustling streets, Dr. Vanessa Brooks Carter didn't know her son was in the back of a squad car, tears in his eyes, cuffs digging into his wrists. She sat at the head of a polished mahogany conference table, surrounded by executives who dealt in billions. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Fairview skyline. Her assistant had just wrapped up a briefing on a massive merger, the kind that made headlines. Vanessa's expression was calm, composed, as always when leading high-stakes meetings. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, her tailored blazer flawless, her voice precise, cutting. She didn't waste words. She didn't need to. Then her phone vibrated softly against the table. The name on the screen made everything else vanish. Jaden. Vanessa never silenced his contact, no matter the meeting or the company. Her son came first. She grabbed the phone without a word, her eyes scanning the message once, twice. Her calm shattered, not into panic, but something fiercer. The air around her shifted, her shoulders squared, her jaw set. The room felt colder. The executives paused, exchanging nervous glances. "Everything okay, Doctor?" "Carter?" one asked cautiously. Vanessa's eyes lingered on the screen for a moment. Then she stood, her chair sliding back with a faint scrape. She grabbed her keys, phone, and bag. "This meeting is over," she said, her voice quiet but absolute. "Ma'am?" A senior VP, a silver-haired man named Richard Hayes, blinked in surprise. "What's wrong?" Vanessa didn't look at him as she strode toward the door, already dialing with precision. Her heels clicked sharply on the marble floor. "My son," she said, her voice like steel. "Someone at Fairview Community Bank just made the worst mistake of their career." The elevator doors opened. Vanessa stepped in, phone to her ear. "Michael," she said as her attorney answered. "Meet me at Fairview Community Bank. Now bring the paperwork and bring Ethan." The executives exchanged looks. They knew Ethan, former detective, the one you called when diplomacy wasn't an option. The doors closed. 20 minutes later, a glossy black Mercedes pulled up outside Fairview Community Bank, its surface gleaming under the noon sun, tinted windows dark as night. The license plate, BFH1, was subtle, but anyone in finance would recognize Brooks Financial Holdings. The door opened. Vanessa stepped out, her heels clicking on the pavement, her suit fitting like armor. The sunlight caught the platinum pin on her lapel, the emblem of the financial empire her family had built over decades. Her expression was unreadable, her stride unwavering. Behind her, Michael Patel exited, legal documents in hand. Ethan Hayes followed, his tall, muscular frame imposing in a dark suit, eyes scanning the bank with quiet intensity. Inside, the lobby hadn't changed. Karen Mitchell stood by the counter, arms crossed, smug. Sarah was at her desk, chatting with the security guard, both glancing toward the door, as if expecting praise for their actions. No one noticed the stir outside until the glass doors swung open. The lobby went silent. The security guard straightened, eyes widening as Vanessa entered, her heels clicking like a countdown. Sarah's smirk faltered. Karen's smile froze. Vanessa walked straight to the counter, her eyes locked on Karen's face. Her voice was calm, steady, terrifying. "Release my son," she said simply. Karen blinked, thrown by the authority radiating from her. "Excuse me." Vanessa reached into her bag, placing a business card on the counter with deliberate care. Heavy stock, silver embossed, the Brooks name prominent. "I said," Vanessa repeated, her voice low. "Release my son. Now." Karen glanced at the card, confusion shifting to realization, then fear. "Wait, Brooks," she stammered. "You're—" Vanessa's eyes didn't waver. "You called the police on the grandson of Leonard Brooks," she said, her voice colder than the hardwood floor. "Founder of this bank, you detained a minor, denied him contact with his parent. Based on what? His skin? His uniform? His cash?" Karen's face paled. Sarah shrank behind the counter. Ethan Hayes stepped forward, placing a file on the desk. "We can review security footage or settle this another way." Before Karen could respond, the doors opened again. A tall, gray-haired man in a tailored suit rushed in, face ashen. James Thornton, board chairman, who answered to the Brooks family. His eyes found Vanessa, his expression near panic. "Vanessa," he said, breathless. "I came as soon as I heard." "Where's my son?" Vanessa asked, her voice steady but unyielding. Thornton's eyes darted to Karen, Sarah, the security guard. In that moment, everyone knew. This wasn't over. But for those who'd erred, it was just beginning. The juvenile detention center was colder than Jayden expected, smelling of disinfectant and old coffee. He sat on a hard plastic chair in a stark room, his wrists free, but marked red from the cuffs. His backpack sat on a nearby table, documents untouched, unread. Officers Murphy and Larson stood by the door, talking quietly, barely glancing at him. To them, he was just another case closed. Jayden stared at the floor, jaw clenched so tight it ached. His pride, his excitement, the confidence he'd carried into the bank, was all in pieces now. No matter how polite, how prepared, it hadn't mattered. They saw his skin, his age, and that was enough. He thought of Mom, wondering if she was still in her meeting, if she'd seen his message before they took his phone. His stomach churned at the thought of her reaction. Shock, disappointment, maybe anger. The weight pressed so hard on his chest he thought he'd break. Then the door opened. Murphy straightened, his posture shifting to unease. Jayden looked up, and for the first time since the cuffs, the tightness in his chest eased. "Mom." Vanessa Brooks. Carter filled the doorway, poised, not a hair out of place. Her eyes, sharp and unwavering, found Jayden first, scanning him head to toe. Relief flashed across her face, then hardened into controlled fury. Behind her, Michael Patel entered, briefcase in hand, pulling out documents. Ethan Hayes stood just inside, arms crossed, watching. Murphy opened his mouth, but Vanessa's voice cut through like a knife. "Where's the supervisor?" Before he could answer, a middle-aged man in plain clothes appeared, badge on his belt, eyes wide with recognition. "Miss Carter," he said quickly, voice tight. "We're sorting this out." "You arrested my son," Vanessa said, her voice quiet but razor-sharp. "Without evidence, without cause, ignoring his ID, his documents, you denied him a phone call." The supervisor's mouth opened, closed. His gaze flicked to Murphy, to Larson, who studied the floor. "Miss Carter, I assure you." Vanessa stepped aside, revealing Michael, who handed over a thick stack of papers. "That's a formal complaint," she said evenly. "Civil rights violations, unlawful detainment, harassment of a minor. The list goes on." The supervisor flipped through, his face paling. Vanessa turned to Jayden, crossing the room in 3 steady strides. She knelt before him, her hand gentle on his shoulder, eyes searching his face. "Are you okay?" Her voice softened, but rage simmered beneath. Jayden nodded once, throat tight. Seeing her strength, the way the room shifted when she entered, loosened something inside him. They didn't listen," he whispered, voice cracking. "I tried to show them. They didn't care. Vanessa's jaw tightened, but she nodded, brushing a hand across his cheek. "It's over," she promised, standing, her gaze locking onto the officers like steel. She turned to the supervisor. "Release him now." He didn't argue, nodding to another officer to retrieve Jayden's things. The cuffs, the paperwork, the humiliation would vanish, at least on paper. But Vanessa knew some scars didn't fade with signatures. The ride home was quiet at first, the city blurring past the car windows, traffic humming. Jayden stared at his hands, faint red marks still visible on his wrists. Finally, he spoke. "They looked at me like I was already guilty." Vanessa's fingers tightened on the steering wheel, her eyes on the road, voice steady. "That's what some people do, baby. They see your skin, your age, your confidence, and decide you're a threat." Jayden was silent, then quietly, "But we have money. You're powerful. Doesn't that change things?" Vanessa exhaled, her eyes softening. "It changes a lot," she admitted, "but not everything. It doesn't shield you from ignorance or hate." They pulled up to their home, a modest house Vanessa chose over gated estates, wanting Jayden to grow up grounded. Today, Jayden saw it differently. Not just grounding, but a stand to demand respect in plain sight. 2 weeks later, Fairview Community Bank was transformed. Karen Mitchell was fired, her office cleared overnight. Sarah Thompson suspended, pending investigation. Security footage sealed their fate. The board acted swiftly. The story broke quietly, then exploded. News segments, social media, whispers in financial circles. The Brooks family wasn't just angry, they were watching. The police faced scrutiny too. Murphy and Larson suspended, their records under review. Community leaders pushed for change. Mandatory bias training, new protocols for minors, a civilian oversight board formed within a month. But for Jayden, the real change was internal. When he returned to the bank with his mom, he held his head higher. The new manager, a young black woman with warm eyes, guided him through the account process in 5 minutes. No accusations, no unnecessary questions. Jayden didn't smile until they stepped outside. "Proud of you," Vanessa said, her hand on his shoulder. Jayden glanced back at the glass doors, the city reflected behind them. For the first time in days, the weight in his chest lifted. "I'm proud of me too," he said. And this time, no one could take that away. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.